Emily had always dreamed of exploring Rome. She was a freelance journalist, traveling the world to uncover hidden gems and unspoken histories. Rome's vibrant streets, rich with culture and stories of the past, seemed the perfect destination. But when she received an invitation to join a secret tour of the Catacombs di San Sebastiano, a restricted portion not open to the public, she couldn't resist. The invitation was hand-delivered to her hotel, sealed in a thick envelope. Inside the letter read, "Miss Emily Hayes, your work has intrigued us, and we believe you would appreciate the stories beneath our city's foundation. Should you accept, meet us at the Trastevere clock tower at midnight. Bring a candle." Curiosity outweighed caution. That night, Emily made her way to the clock tower, a bundle of nerves bundled beneath her thick coat. The streets were quiet, the usual hustle of tourists replaced by an eerie stillness. She arrived to find a man waiting for her, a tall figure cloaked in black, his face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. "Are you ready?" he asked, his voice smooth but cold. Emily hesitated before nodding. He handed her a candle, already lit, and motioned for her to follow. They walked through narrow alleys, the man's silence gnawing at Emily's nerves. Soon they reached an unmarked door in an unlit street. The man produced a heavy iron key and unlocked it, revealing a stone staircase descending into darkness. "This is where your story begins," he said before turning and disappearing into the shadows. Emily stepped inside, gripping the candle tightly. The door slammed shut behind her, leaving her heart pounding. The catacombs were cold and damp, the air heavy with the smell of earth and decay. Rows upon rows of ancient stone tombs lined the walls, each marked with faded carvings. The faint sound of dripping water echoed through the tunnels. Emily's candle cast long, flickering shadows that seemed to move on their own. She began to document everything: the intricate carvings, the layout of the tunnels, the strange symbols etched into the walls, symbols that didn't belong to any known Roman style. As she ventured deeper, she noticed the air growing colder, the silence more oppressive. Her footsteps echoed unnaturally, as if the tunnels were alive and listening. That's when she saw it, a small alcove off to the side, its entrance partially obscured by debris. Emily's heart raced as she approached, feeling an inexplicable pull. She cleared the rubble and stepped inside. The room was unlike the rest of the catacombs. Its walls were adorned with frescoes, vivid, grotesque images of people kneeling before shadowy figures with elongated limbs and hollow eyes. In the center of the room was an altar, and upon it sat an urn, its surface covered in the same strange symbols she'd seen earlier. Emily reached out to touch the urn, but as her fingers grazed the surface, the candle extinguished, plunging the room into darkness. The sound of whispering filled the air, growing louder, surrounding her. "Who's there?" she called, her voice shaking. The whispers stopped, replaced by a low, guttural growl. Then she felt it, a cold, bony hand brushing against her arm. Screaming, Emily bolted from the room, stumbling through the dark until she managed to relight her candle. But when the flame flickered to life, she froze. The tunnels had changed. The narrow passageways were now labyrinthine, stretching in directions she didn't remember. The symbols on the walls glowed faintly, pulsating like a heartbeat. The whispers returned, this time forming words. "Leave this place." Emily hurried through the corridors, trying to retrace her steps, but every turn seemed to lead her deeper into the maze. The frescoes grew more disturbing, figures mutilated, consumed by shadowy creatures that seemed to emerge from the very walls. Then she heard footsteps. At first they sounded distant, but they quickly grew louder, faster. Emily turned, her candle flickering wildly. A figure emerged from the darkness, a man draped in tattered robes, his face pale and gaunt, eyes sunken and devoid of life. "You've disturbed the sanctum," he rasped. "You shouldn't have touched the urn." I didn't know," Emily stammered, backing away. The man's expression twisted into a sinister smile. "They're awake now. And they're hungry?" The walls began to pulse, the symbols glowing brighter. Shadows seeped from the cracks, coalescing into monstrous forms with jagged teeth and clawed hands. Emily ran, her screams echoing through the tunnels as the creatures gave chase. She tripped over a broken piece of stone, the candle slipping from her grasp and shattering on the ground. Darkness enveloped her. In the pitch black, she felt them closing in, their breath cold against her skin, their claws raking across her clothes. Desperate, she fumbled for her phone, using its weak light to illuminate her surroundings. The creatures recoiled, hissing, but they didn't retreat. Emily crawled backward until her hands hit something cold and smooth, the urn. Without thinking, she grabbed the urn and hurled it against the wall. It shattered, releasing a blinding light that filled the chamber. The creatures screamed, their forms dissolving into the shadows. When the light faded, the tunnels were silent again. Emily sat trembling, the broken remains of the urn at her feet. But her relief was short-lived. The glowing symbols on the walls began to fade, one by one until only darkness remained. And then she heard it, a deep, resonant voice echoing through the catacombs. "You've set them free." Emily stumbled through the tunnels, her phone's light guiding her. After what felt like hours, she found the staircase leading back to the surface. She burst through the door into the night, gasping for air. The man in the wide-brimmed hat was waiting for her. "You shouldn't have gone inside," he said coldly. "Now they're loose." What were they?" Emily demanded. "The Forgotten Ones," he replied. "Guardians of a power Rome buried long ago. And now you've doomed us all." Before she could respond, the man turned and vanished into the shadows, leaving her alone under the Roman moonlight. Emily left Rome the next day, but the nightmares followed her. She could still hear the whispers, still feel the cold breath of the shadows. And as she sat in her apartment, staring at her unfinished article, her phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. "They're coming."